So I feel that no one is realistically talking about these little charts that I'm going to display. There's about 7 or 8 charts we're going to look at in depth in terms of understanding the obvious, which is, can we buy altcoins? Are we going to use our BTC? What is a risk reward like? If you're new around here, please do leave a like and subscribe. Let's get into this. It's a bit more detailed than normal. So the first thing we do need to talk about is technically this. And I want to draw your attention to the fact that this was 20 hours ago. And the amount of views and shares on this is very interesting. A little bit of retail, hello. Why are we sharing this? Well, it's more to the point of the fact that the Federal Reserve moving to lower their interest rates was already priced in the cryptocurrency market, signaling now it might be the opportunity to get some selling opportunities. Now, that's obviously somewhat interesting, but when we talk about what we've said before in the past, regardless of what you may think, these charts I'm going to showcase to you will indicate that maybe we are a lot closer to the bottom, and this is where we're going to get that bearish copium where people are expecting, now this is obviously not financial advice and it's all based on probability, that the bottom, you know what I mean, if that makes sense. So what I'm trying to explain in simple terms is people may want to get a lower cryptocurrency order, whereas maybe the cycle low is already in. That's where I'm going with it. So obviously, yes, you could see fear and greed, there's more potential movements, or whatever, right? But for me, we have been at so low levels for such a long time, it's very interesting. And I want to draw you to the chart in a second. And I think you're going to see something very simple. The first thing we need to look at, it's kind of obvious, I know, I do apologize. BTC is at levels of resistance and we're currently testing those levels. This is the daily time frame. Go to the 3-day time frame, it looks a bit more apparent. Let me just remove some of the noise. Now you can see here, this is the entire swing in terms of the upward move, where we've gone to and where we've kind of rejected from. Right, relatively straightforward. Now if I zoom in enough on here so you can all see it, we are, yes, somewhat in a downtrend, but this candle here is going to become very important, because if this body starts to close in only 12 hours, by the way, Bitcoin's going to look a bit more favorable. Going into a weekend, going into the final couple of days of Q3, where it actually might be turning green for the first time in a while, could be very interesting. Now, this could be a potential bottom. Now, with an RSI by a bullish divergence, that is important. Oh, by the way, a lot of people do ask me what this indicator is. This is a momentum indicator. It's created by Learning Crypto. The LC Trend and Momentum Pro indicator. If you want it, it's on the Traders Lounge. There's a link below to that. Now, when we talk about obviously Bitcoin being the rule of the roost, it kind of hasn't been the last few days and a few weeks, and so to speak, we need to talk about that, which brings me nicely onto Bitcoin dominance. I know some of my YouTube subscribers don't give a shit about this, fair enough, but I know a lot of people know this through me years ago in terms of when to buy altcoins, when not to buy altcoins, right? This, in my opinion, doesn't have as much of a metric as it used to, and we'll talk about why in a minute. But the reality is here, we need to look at the obvious. What is happening? Well, there will be a point, let's be honest here, I don't know when, where this will flip quite aggressively. Often you find that there's a lot of aggressive kind of downward movements with this, and that's kind of important. Now, in my opinion, now this is not financial advice in any way, shape or form, but I would look at this sort of level, hold on, I'm going to make it a bit bigger, around here as a potential area of I realistically will be a little bit worried if we go higher than this. Not so much that altcoins have failed, which is a real possibility if we keep going to the moon. Now, some people do think we're going to go beyond here. There's a lot of people that just think that this is just cooked, but reality is so, right? Let's be honest. Let's talk about it in obvious terms. The world of Bitcoin is important. The ecosystem of Bitcoin is getting bigger, but there is millions of altcoins. It's not going to always rule the roost, right? There's always going to be flashing points where altcoins will do well. This isn't an uptrend, and there's been no reason for you to be in altcoins. I'm going to verify this with another chart in a minute. So remember the dates. End of 2022, right? November, October, December of 2022. We'll come back to that in a second, right? So when we look at the 618 levels, even if you draw a box around this 56 to 60% level and you look at previous levels of structure in the past, this level looks to me like basically what we should be doing is consider altcoin positions, right? I will verify this with other things because I'm going to let you in on a little bit of a Patreon secret. Now, if you are a member of my Patreon, you'll know this. I am roughly 80% in Bitcoin, right? I've done some moving around. I am looking to buy some more altcoins, and I'm going to use a percentage of that Bitcoin to then buy into altcoins using BTC. And I'm just going to hope for the best, and hopefully they moon and I make more Bitcoin, right? If you want to join Patreon, link below. It's only a $5 if you want to get in. Literally, it's fuck all. So that is one situation. Now, we can't be considering this as an obvious, but I'm going to tell you anyways. The real term of dominance currently, when you remove the stable coins, is interesting. This is a previous high back in the day, and it was roughly the same as what it was in the BTC chart what I just showed you before. We're currently at 62%. Now, going back to it, back in these days, right, there wasn't as much altcoin action with stable currencies. The stable currency market was smaller. The Bitcoin market was bigger versus obviously altcoins, and they got ruined. I do not believe, in my opinion, that we're going to go anywhere near this. I think we are slowly topping anyways. I think this is going to, like, 60% will seem like a bit of a push, considering how long we've been at 54%, how long it took us to get over 55%. And then we're currently here and we're struggling a little bit, right? And I think that's very, very, very important to know. And I think a lot of people get caught out with that and start thinking, but it's okay because it went like that in the past. But the past is different with crypto because only back in these days when I was first investing, there was hardly any altcoins. You had to put BTC on an exchange to buy stuff. That's where the difference was. Then obviously USDT came along, then obviously USDC, then DAI and all that kind of stuff. Altcoins went galore, and then we went, yeah. Same here. When this all happened, there will be a point where this will flash and people will eventually rotate into altcoins because they'll see the opportunity. They'll probably see the exact same chart I'm going to point out to you. Now, look away if you are an Ethereum lover. Now, as much as I don't hold Ethereum, I've never really liked it much in my whole lifetime, this isn't looking good, right? Now, the dominance of Ethereum really has really badly dropped off, like proper bad, innit? Now, I said in my recent video that I think Solana will eventually flip Ethereum. You know, that's my opinion. Whether you like it or not, I don't know. Now, Solana has a lot more going for it than Ethereum in one big aspect. Now, it doesn't have the time, obviously, right? But what Solana does have is its adoption to the Bitcoin ecosystem, which could play out massively in the next 5 to 10 years. I think, regardless of what your opinion is, I think Solana to watch versus Ethereum would be a very interesting spectacle from a neutral point of view. I don't have interest in either of them, by the way. I don't hold Solana, I don't hold Ethereum, but as a cryptocurrency enthusiast, I think that is the most important watch. I've always alluded to it that maybe something will, because it's obvious sense, will flip Bitcoin in terms of capitalization due to the network effect of multiple things. However, that might be different now if the Bitcoin economy gets bigger and bigger, and it seems to be, right? Now, this is worrying. Now, I don't like doing TA on dominance charts, but ultimately, this is the same sort of chart as what we're looking at, of normal structure points. Now, when we go to the Ethereum BTC pair, it is a similar sort of element here. If we're going to go from the obvious swing higher on the weekly time frame up to these levels, we may well find that it does go into this sort of region again and continue then going potentially lower into 2021 levels. Now, this is a real indication of one big problem, and one of the biggest problems that we do have is the inflows on the Ethereum ETF is nowhere near as strong as Bitcoin. Also, Solana is doing way better than Ethereum right now. So is BNB. BNB's dominance is also doing well. So that makes it a bit more interesting. So the main reason why as well, flipping back to that BTC, bear with me, dominance, what if now things are going higher just because Ethereum dominance is realistically just falling off a cliff? Look at the difference and contrast between them. It's like absolute chalk and cheese. But what has actually taken up the mantle? Well, Solana has been doing fantastically well over the course of time. Now, obviously, their all-time high was much higher here in terms of dollar value, but there was a lot less coins out. Now there's a lot more coins out. It's also higher in dominance, and you could argue that Solana hasn't really got going yet. Again, the same for BNB. This is slowly starting to chug up. What if BNB becomes like 7-8% of the market again? What about if Solana becomes 10% of the market? What if Ethereum struggles and does not become a 20 odd % of the market? Now, let's not look at these because obviously data is different. But when you think about if a Bitcoin is strong, will Ethereum keep up with it? I, at the minute, don't know. Looking at that chart, it's a little bit worrying. Realistically, let's be honest here. This is a chart that you should all, and I mentioned it in one of my previous videos, you should all take fucking notice of. Write it down. Don't write that bit down, that's rude. But what we're looking at here is the total 3, which is basically the top 125 minus BTC minus Ethereum in the BTC pair. Little bit different. Now, this is telling us, and we're going to go back to that little line I said before. Remember the latter years of this sort of period. This was the top October, November, December of 2022 was essentially the top for altcoins in terms of BTC pairs. Then it obviously crumbled. So you didn't have to be, realistically, and I've openly said this, in terms of this time period here of 672 days, well, you probably wouldn't be. You get the idea. If you're going to go from, let's just go from the old structure point here. If a breakdown of this level, change of character, 630 days. 630 days without holding an altcoin. That's what it should have been. And I've openly said that. I talked about the FTX crash thinking, opportunity. Yeah, oops, I forgot that bit. So, yeah, I shouldn't have bought. But that gives you an idea. What is happening here, though, and look at this, right? This is a potential range, and I know this is a bit obvious, but there's a potential breakout zone here which could indicate a change of character, which could indicate we might actually be able to buy into altcoins. We may well get the EMAs crossing over. We may well get a change of structure. We may well get momentum. And I want to point out the fact of the start of this year. Remember that little altcoin rally we had where everyone was like, yay, amazing. And I was getting 50,000 views on my videos because everyone was going berserk for it. That was only that move 20% up. And when we zoom out and look at the obvious here, and I do apologise for being a bit too giddy here, there's a long way to go. And this is slowly showing signs of a bottoming vibe. And look at the previous markets. You can see here where we've went. Get the idea? So, as I say, please do make note of this. This is a really good positional bias kind of chart. And if you are a macro trader and you like positional holding, now I'm a positional trader, so to speak, it makes sense. And this is the worst thing in the world, is trying to find the bottoms, but ultimately it's having that nerve. And I want to give you a little bit of perspective here. If you bought Bitcoin at 15K, right, and you are like looking to go into the six figures, which is absolutely fine, the hardest bit will be to take money off the table and also when to put your money back in. When you start seeing this going up, you're going to see altcoins go up, hopefully, fingers crossed. When you start seeing this go down, you're going to see weakness in altcoins, and that will give you that inkling to remain in that dollar value until the market settles down. Then you can look at the BTC pair, and you can look at the Bitcoin chart, and then you can make a decision. But this is telling you one thing and one thing only, not to be in altcoins. It will eventually tell you to be in altcoins, and that is a secret sauce. You need to understand that. You will always look for opportunist levels on the weekly time frame to buy key solid levels of support. You might get lucky, you might get some bounce, you might be able to take some money off the table. But overall, in the macro sense, you need to pay attention to this. This is why I'm still 80% in Bitcoin currently. Yeah, I know. Blowing your minds. Now, to kind of change your opinion a little bit is the fact that we do have cycle narrative at play still potentially with regards to, obviously this is very rough, by the way. It's not kind of how I would look at it, but I'm just giving you a little bit of an idea. We're currently obviously here. Now, the total market capitalization metric is a little bit skewy because it's, well, let's be honest here, this will inflate because of more altcoins getting released. However, thus being said, this could still absolutely fuck off to the moon. Let's be honest, it really can. So please be mindful. Again, if you want to look at this in the BTC pair, feel free to do so. All you need to do, go onto here, /BTC, and you will start to see it in a different metric, which is in a valuation down here. This is also telling us not to touch, basically, this is not the best one because it includes Bitcoin, so it kind of ruins the point, but the total 2/BTC and the total 3/BTC is the best one. But look at where we are. Hello. 2020 levels. The final one to kind of look at is others/BTC. Now, I know this is obvious, but this is not the 125. This is all the other shite, basically, right? And this is currently trying to, go up, which is kind of, okay, what's happening here? This isn't as, well, it kind of is. Let's just draw a box around this area. Boom. Now, that's a very, very key, wow, it's a lot of shit here. A lot of interesting areas here. This could start reversing, potentially. Now, I don't have the indicator to kind of guide us with any divergence, but ultimately you could see us as an index. This could be very, very interesting to see what happens here. So be very, very mindful of it, right? So when we talk about this again, you can see how, little periods of the year were very interesting. So obviously you can see here, right? Now, this is very, very important to know. Remember that little uptick we had not too long ago? It was kind of started all from August of 2023 when we started to break up above this level and we held these levels of support and then we carried on going. It was such a small move in percentages, but ultimately a lot of people got rewarded from it, right? I know, crazy when you think about it. You can't really see that in the dominance chart though, can you? So going back to what I just said, you could not see that on the dominance chart. Well, realistically, you couldn't, because dominance of Bitcoin was so strong in that time period, because it went from like 15k all the way up to stupid levels, and it went from like 25k to like 60k in like a matter of a couple of days. It was ridiculous. You didn't see it. So don't always bear metric to that one. Look at the other ones. Please do write them down. And I want to kind of showcase why it's important. Now, I'm going to show you a couple of individual altcoins, and that'll just give you a little bit of a taste of where they can be going. But ultimately, you can look at most altcoins in the BTC pair and see where you are in terms of fair value. So just to give you an idea, this is Cardano. You may have heard of it. Remember that little uptick at the start of the year? This was it. Not much at all, but it was enough to get you some monies. Again, it's in a horrible downtrend on the weekly time frame, right? Which is fine. BNB looks different. Why does it look different? Because it's more of a retail coin in terms of metrics and the sentiment around people buying. And as I've alluded to it, you could see some very, very interesting kind of runs here. Obviously, the start of the year was very, very strong. Ranging, we are still at, I would say, a not bad place to be. But there's still some upside moves here. Everyone's favourite coin, you all know it, Polkadot. This is looking disgusting. But ultimately, how low can it go? There's opportunity here. Now, the thing with the problem, I think, what people have is, and I feel free to comment what you think as well. People look at these and think, we're going to go up here. There's a good chance you're going to go backwards in time, realistically, and you're not going to go nowhere near these highs, because you've got to think, what was the supply like? What was metrics like? What happened with Bitcoin? Now, if Bitcoin is bigger in value, i.e. 150,000, you've got to do the maths in terms of a 2 times way, where you've got to kind of divide it in terms of, well, what if, let's just say, for example, right, just give you an idea. Let's just say Polkadot goes up to 2,500 Satoshis again, right? You've got to do that maths in terms of what the proposition value of Bitcoin would be at, say, instead of 64,000, what would it be if it was 150,000? That would indicate what the overall price of Polkadot could be. I know that fucking blows your mind, but ultimately you've got to kind of be realistic too. Now, as I've alluded to it, supplies matter. Look at the Solana one, as I've alluded to before. Be mindful of it, but don't just look, we're going to go to the moon. Look at obvious levels of structure and be realistic with your numbers, because if you are putting, say, 0.1 of a Bitcoin in and you're making a 3 or a 4 or 5x, that's a decent return. And if Bitcoin goes up in value through that, it's going to be pretty good. Now, obviously, this is a really obvious example, but it may not, it may flop. But it may look good. It may look good in USD because Bitcoin's done very well, okay? Be mindful. Ethereum, as I've said, we've kind of analysed this a little bit. It's not looking good. ICP, I mentioned it on one of my videos not too long ago. I need to go to logarithmic because it looks like shit. This has obviously got sold off massively due to the FTX kind of crumble and all kinds of stuff like that. This could have really good fair value and its first ever proper bull market. So that's why I'm keeping an eye on it. It's kind of one of the ones where I'm like, you know what, this looks like an obvious one. But this could also go up a lot higher. It'll be very, very interesting to see what happens. Chainlink, I've talked about this a lot. and I do know that people hate me for it, but this did very, very well pre-bull market of the previous cycle. And then in the bull market, it fucking just doozied and died a little bit on the BTC pair, but it went up in USD because obviously Bitcoin went up. We don't want this situation. We don't want to see your coins go up in USD and down in BTC. We want to go both at the same time. That'll be amazing. But currently right now, you're looking at like 2019 levels. That's like potentially a gift for a lot of people. Nia made a chunk of money on Nia at the start of the year. Very, very fortunate. I was buying some amazing random ass positions down here in those kind of events. I was feeling sick when I was buying them. But I was rewarded. I took quite a decent chunk off the table, and now I'm in a position where I can hold it risk free and just chill out a little bit. But we'll see where it goes. I would like to have bought more, but I don't think the opportunities kind of come around now, which is a bit annoying. Solana, as I've alluded to it, we are ranging. This could pop and go even higher, and we could break all-time highs. So you may not look at that as fair value. One that is potentially fair value could be Stacks, which is kind of unknown to a lot of people. But this hasn't had a roaring bull market where everyone's focused on Bitcoin and layer 2s and the Nakamoto update and all kinds of good stuff, right? So when we're looking at fair value, there's a lot here. Obviously, there's only a couple and a snapshot of them, right? You need to look at your own pairs. So if we're looking at, say, I don't know, FTM, BTC, right? Random example, just to give you an idea. You know, when we're looking at like certain situations, you know, we've got to look at the past. Yeah, cool, sweet. But there's a load of gains here potentially, right? And we move away from the logarithmic. You can see here, crazy. I know I looked at them other ones without the logarithmic, but you can see the idea. There's a lot of gains on these, but you get the idea, right? I hope it all makes sense to you. So there you go. There's a lot of upside here. Just be mindful though, because I think a lot of people forget, and I want to be brutally honest with you. Not everything's going to go up this year. It really isn't. I don't think anything, you know, we're looking at these as individual assets, digital assets. It's not just going to all flow. What will flow though is the USD prices, right? But if the BTC pairs do not go up with them, you're not going to make nowhere near as much money. You need to find strong dominant assets, and then maybe things may well roll out in a very, very nice format. So there we go. I hope you enjoy. If you did like this content, please do leave a like and obviously subscribe. It means an absolute chunk. And yeah, hope I'm not blowing your brain too much. I do apologize.